What's up, G fans? Today is the final Godzilla dissection. It's been a long time coming, and for this last time, basically say the Godzilla movie I enjoy watching more than almost any other. Which, if you watch the ranking the Godzilla movies videos I did, then you would know the answer to that. Before I get into that, I just want to thank everybody for hanging in there while I've been doing this whole part one, part two thing, because finally, February 27th, it was proclaimed that YouTube would finally allow me to do longer than 15-minute videos after, I guess, some kind of copyright strike, which YouTube is notorious for. I'm not going to go too much into it because it's covered by so many big people, bigger than me on YouTube, I should say. And yeah, it is a problem with this whole fair use thing, and yeah, my God, it is really annoying. However, I'm thankful that my channel did not get taken down, and yes, I would like to try and avoid copyright strikes in the future. As of now, I have good standing with them. That being said, I want to talk about Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, known as Godzilla vs. Destroyer in Japan, released in December of 1995. A little history about this movie. This movie was made. Well, the decision to kill Godzilla off as a character was made, I should say, because TriStar had just purchased the rights for Godzilla and they were intent on making their own movie. So it was decided to bring those, chapter of Avengers to an end, and what spawned from it was very well done, even if the American version, Godzilla 1998, was a piece of shit. At least Toho brought this character to a pretty great end for such an iconic character, and this is really just one of my favorite movies of all freaking time. It's not my most favorite one, really, and it just has a lot of things going for it. I guess the first thing I'll say, the human characters are very well written in this movie. We have a few highlights, of course. Momoko Kochi, rest in peace. She comes back to reprise her role all the way from the 1954 film. She did a fantastic freaking job in this movie, and very much carrying the anti-nuclear sentiment and anti-weapon sentiment that Serizawa had in the 1954 film. So that was very impressive. Loved her performance, and then we have a lot of strong characters. One of the probably the best performance out of their entire Heisei series as far as characters go, especially the evolution of her character, Megumi Odaka, as Miki Sagusa, the psychic who's been connected to Godzilla for quite some time, who was honestly more of a minor character in the first few films, but starting with Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, she became a lot more important, and it's very interesting to see that in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, for all its flaws, did try and build up on this relationship, and now we finally see its conclusion here. And she also did a fantastic job in this movie. A lot of emotion drives this movie, and that's what makes it so freaking great. All the characters are pretty well fleshed out, and I think they all have their own motivations, and they all feel differently about this whole situation of Godzilla's impending death and possibly humanity along with him. I also liked how the writers, as you may or may not know, Kazuki Amori, who did the storyline for Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, Godzilla vs. Biollante, he came back to not direct this movie. That was in the hands of, let me try and remember the director. He did Godzilla 2000, Tako Awara, who had done, Godzilla vs. Mothra in 1993. No, 1992. But yeah, like I was saying, the writer did so much to connect the movie back to a 1954 film. I gotta say, did a very excellent job with that. It's not something too many Godzilla films usually do, unless, of course, you can count the Millennium movies, which try many times to connect back to 1954. But this is the first time since the return of Godzilla they really focused on the 1954 film as a main subject matter for a Godzilla movie, and that was pretty impressive. I love how they did that. To go into the plot, after coming to human characters, I think were very well done. The basic plot of the movie is that Godzilla, a lot of theories speculate that after his fight with Space Godzilla, Godzilla took in so much energy from both Space Godzilla and Rodan over the years that finally, it's all catching up to him. His nuclear heart can no longer control his radiation and power. So basically, he's going to overhaul mode, and it's not good. It causes a number of freaking problems. The biggest one, of course, being that not only will Godzilla die, but he's going to take a lot of Earth with him. At first, through a traditional, well, I say traditional, I say through a nuclear explosion, which will pretty much wipe out uh, a humongous portion of the population. And then later, it turns into a traditional, not, I keep using the word traditional, a meltdown, which at one character point calls it kind of like the China syndrome, which was an incident that happened many years ago involving a nuclear reactor meltdown. And yes, this will be just like it. So Godzilla is a lot bigger, and of course the radiation that he's absorbed over the years will be released all at once, causing widespread devastation. So yeah, it's a pressing matter. So basically, this it's set up very early on that Godzilla is going to meet his end. You just wonder just how and if he can accomplish all he's trying to do in the meantime. The main goal in Godzilla in this movie is to reconnect with his long lost adopted son, Godzilla Jr., as he's called in this one. I love how that, after all, that relationship between Godzilla and Jr. has been built up since, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla in 1993, where, Godzilla met this little Godzilla source and then basically has adopted him as his own son. And now, that was a plot point in Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, where trying to save him from Space Godzilla. Basically, the Raditz, the evil uncle who comes to claim everything as his own. And we finally see that relationship develop fully here, although tragically, it's very tragic what happens to Godzilla in this movie, but that's kind of the point. Uh, I want to say about this movie, I'm impressed with this movie because it goes the very different. It has a very different somber feel to it than a lot of the Heisei movies, and that worked to its film's advantage quite a bit. Although there are moments of humor, it's done. It's a lot of movies more serious and feels a lot more tragic than all the Heisei movies. I mean, Heisei movies have been really good, aside of Bumper in the Road, like Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. But the setting in this movie feels a lot more, like I said, like the 1954 film, although not quite so much directly, focused on realism per se, as much as giant monster movies go. But the threat of nuclear and radiation stuff is still a pretty big part of this movie. Obviously, I mean that's the whole point of Godzilla's downfall, basically, which is ironic in a way. Godzilla's power source after all these years is going to be his downfall. It's quite ironic, and yeah, when you think about it that way, that was pretty well done. Like I said, yeah, but the characters, they all sense the gravity of the situation, and so basically, a lot of the movie is geared towards how to deal with the situation the right way, especially since they can't deal with it the usual way they do, which is try and blow Godzilla away. There's a almost comedic scene where Akira Nako's character, the general, also finds out that they can no longer launch traditional military attacks against Godzilla. Not that it matters. I mean, those work very well in the past, anyways. But in any case, they can no longer, attack with normal missiles and artillery shells because that could possibly set Godzilla off. So, what this movie does very well is it turns a lot of the Godzilla stuff on its head. And I say that for a number of reasons because speaking of the military, you have the Super X3, which, like I said, I love Super X3 a lot more than the first two Super X designs. It's a more traditional fighter jet type of thing. A lot of people make fun of its aerodynamics, but I think it looks fine if you ask me. This is quick trivia: the only Super X to survive fight with Godzilla. In fact, two fights with Godzilla, and that's of course because it uses these freezer laser weapons. And like I said, it's also one of the few Godzilla fighter weapons that survives getting hit by the heat ray a number of times. So it's interesting. And like I said, it's one of those prevailing weapons that never gets destroyed by Godzilla, which is rare because usually one way or another these weapons always get destroyed. Whether it be Mechagodzilla, Mogira in the last movie, Mecha King Ghidorah, these weapons usually, they're powerful, but they never last. But Super X surprisingly did. Super X3 for the fucking win. That being said, like I said, I love the tone in this movie. It's a lot more serious than the other ones, and of course, a lot more somber. Fukube's score in this one is a lot more somber at times, especially in the scenes where they're reflecting on the 1954 film and, of course, the Ocean Destroyer itself. So right now, I guess I'll delve into the monsters, which I definitely want to talk about a lot. I'll start with Godzilla Jr. This is by far my most favorite version of a portrayal of an infant Godzilla. We had Manila in the '60s, which was really bad. We had Baby Godzilla and Godzilla vs. Mecha Godzilla, which looked fantastic. Choice of blue with black stripes is very interesting, and they actually looked like Godzilla. Excuse me. And then we went a step backwards with Little Godzilla in the 1994 film, who looked still not as bad as Minia, but still, like I said, a lot more kid friendly looking and quite frankly crap. And now he was green all of a sudden. Couldn't figure that one out. Just couldn't. God, I did not like Little Godzilla. Did not like him. And then finally we have Godzilla Jr., who looks freaking badass. I love Godzilla Jr. He still has, small dorsal plates and more, what do you call that? I guess not deep as a roar as Godzilla himself, but Baby Godzilla is no joke in this movie. He's an excellent fighter. He has the heat ray finally, not the smoke bubbles from the last movie, not smoke rings like Mini. He has the actual heat ray, which is a nice addition. And the interesting part to know about all this, Godzilla Jr. is basically about the size of Godzilla in the original 1954 film. He's about half that size of his father, which is interesting to note in this movie. So I always thought that Godzilla Jr. should have had, films or some kind of literature dedicated to him afterwards, since we know he survives in this movie. I think his adventures should have continued. He could have fought a number of other foes, but that is just the realm of fan fiction at this rate. But it's probably better that way the Heisei series, be left as it is. And like I said, I love Godzilla Jr. was an impressive character in this movie, and a lot of the early heartbreaking scenes involve him and being put through all this torture. I love this section of the movie where the only way they could subvert all of this horror that could possibly happen is to lure Godzilla to fight Destoroyah, who is the only one who can kill him, supposedly. If Destoroyah kills him, then they could avoid this whole meltdown situation. And how do they lure Godzilla in? Unfortunately, they have to use Godzilla Jr., something that Mickey's character is highly opposed to. But unfortunately, of course, the survival of humanity supersedes it, so even she is forced to give up on this, a proposal. And they end up basically using Godzilla Jr. And when you watch the movie, even as a kid when I watched it, I felt as, well, that's really dark and screwed up. I mean, they have to basically abuse this child and use him as bait. And that's pretty much exactly what happens, because even though Godzilla Jr. holds his own for a little while, eventually Destroyer finishes the job, and it's in a very brutal manner, and leads to some of the most emotionally satisfying and heartbreaking moments in the Godzilla franchise as a whole. So yeah, Godzilla Jr. was very well done in this movie. Could not have been done better. I'm hoping in the future to see another Godzilla like this. It's okay to have younger versions of Godzilla in there. Just do them right and do them justice like they did in this one. Onto Godzilla himself. This is one of my favorite versions of Godzilla. It looks a lot like the 1994 suit, but they changed it a little bit. Of course, it's a lot darker. Basically, he's almost black now. And of course, he has these. The special effects team did such a great job creating the Burning Godzilla look. It's a look we haven't seen since. It's a very original look, and it's fantastic. Normally known as Burning Godzilla, as I may or may not have said. This is, of course, a fan name, but of course, it's stuck very well because it's so excellent. Burning Godzilla basically has these burning orange red sections of his body, which illustrate just how much his body is suffering and deteriorating under this nuclear overload. And it's a fantastic look. Has never been recreated since, and it definitely gives some depth to what's going on with Godzilla's body in this one. This movie has one of the best openings ever. When you first see Godzilla come out of the water and he's glowing red and orange, my first time I'm like, "Whoa, what the hell is this? This is so awesome! What the hell is going on here?" And then Godzilla, of course, goes on a freaking rampage of epic portions in Hong Kong, just obliterates the city with his supercharged spiral breath. And yeah, it's insane. And Godzilla looks so good in this one. There are so many great shots of him roaring, snarling, and just feel the emotion, anger radiating off him. And of course, also there's the sad moments. Godzilla has his head hung low. Then you can see these creatures in all this agony, and it adds so much tragedy and just a touch of, like I said, somberness to this whole movie, knowing how much Godzilla had to suffer in this movie. And I guess that's just the role of the story he had in this one. His role as king was finally coming to an end, which is basically what the movie ends up amounting to: the end of one king's reign and giving it down to another. As like I said, Burning Godzilla looks fantastic. Just breathtaking work of effects and the writing side, giving so much emotion to this character, more emotion he's had in the whole Heisei series. Honestly, it just made Godzilla such a great character. I loved him in this one. And then we have my favorite kaiju antagonist ever, up there with Gigan and King Ghidorah for me, Destoroyah, or Destroyer, or Destroyer, as it's officially spelled, like double O. But anyways, Destroyer is a fantastic character, one of my favorite Godzilla villains of all time, and it leads into many great action scenes that are among some of the best ever shot. And that's because Destroyer goes to so many forms. He, like Hedorah, is a creature that goes through many metamorphoses and leads to a lot of fun special effects. Uh, of course, we all critique the little double jaw thing seen in a lot of the aggregate form and the little juvenile forms because it's so aliens esque. But aside that small thing, Destroyer is a great monster. Design is fantastic. All the forms I love: the juvenile, the aggregate, the flying form especially, and of course the final form, which is big gargoyle demon-looking abomination. And it's just great. The concept of Destroyer was a great design. To me, honestly, there has not been an original monster half as good as this one ever since. The Heisei is known for bringing back a lot of monsters and making them look really good, like King Ghidorah, Rodan, Mechagodzilla. But Destroyer was one of the best original monsters to appear in a Godzilla film. I've been waiting for him to appear in a Godzilla movie since. Not to talk down the Millennium series, but they didn't even come close to creating anything of this level during the whole six film span. Anything they create. Mechagearus is an all right monster, but still, not one of the best. And definitely, Batra-esque, although still very a lot of difference between those two characters, though. And then by the time we get to any new monsters in Godzilla Final Wars, namely the only new monster was Monster X, and I guess Kaiser Ghidorah, I guess, in a way, and both those pale in comparison to Destroyer. Just as far as sheer power goes and scale, Destroyer is a lot bigger than Godzilla, and which made the fight so interesting. And of course, the fight to me was a lot more interesting than the kung fu nonsense they had in Godzilla Final Wars. But I digress on that whole point. Like I said, all Destroyer's forms look great. He's a great villain, or some people say it's a she. I don't know, don't really care. Either way, I think Destroyer is a great freaking villain, and the action scenes between Godzilla Jr., Godzilla, and Destroyer are some great scenes, cinematography-wise, and just the way they were done. These fights are great, bloody. They give us what we want: hard-hitting monster action. And of course, there's a lot of tragedy because Destroyer. A lot of people say King Ghidorah is the arch enemy of Godzilla, and I do believe that in a sense. But Destroyer is definitely one of the few monsters, if the only monster, to ever attack Godzilla emotionally. And to me, those are fantastic scenes. They give Destroyer a sadistic personality, and it's just great. It's just freaking great. He attacks him where it hurts the most. Godzilla Jr. I'm not gonna lie, when I watched that scene the first time I was a kid, I cried outright. Watching Godzilla Jr. get taken up into the air by Destroyer. Basically, he's helpless. And like I said before, since Godzilla Jr. is about the size of the original Godzilla from the 50s, it's it's a really magnificent shot because you see just how small Godzilla Jr. really is in the hands of this much more powerful enemy. And that vulnerability really helps the scene come home when Godzilla Jr. is too badly hurt to even get up and fight anymore. And the Destroyer takes it out on him even more and attacks him while he's down. And Godzilla, like the audience, is left helpless, can only watch this horror happen. And then their fight starts, and it's one of my freaking favorite Godzilla fights of all time. It's just awesome. Those two laying into each other with all they've got. Godzilla goes off on him. Destroyer fights back. He keeps coming. Like I said, one of my favorite Godzilla fight scenes of all time. Fantastically done. And a lot of the action in this movie is freaking well done. The special effects are at their pinnacle in this movie, honestly. I only have a few complaints. Of course, one complaint I do have with the opening of the film, which as much as I love the opening film, I did notice in later years I watched it that I guess they went to the whole technique of matching a live background. I mean, a live background to foreground, with Godzilla. I mean, let me let me rephrase that. They use real actors and a real place in the foreground, the Godzilla in the background rampaging. This technique was used a lot, especially in Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. I'm not Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla and Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. So that way you can have some great shots of Godzilla looming over a city and destroying it with people running in the foreground towards the camera or out of the shot. And the same technique was going to be used here. However, I don't know. I guess there was maybe a conflict with the shooting schedule. I don't know, but the people here do not seem to be aware Godzilla's there at times, and it's easy to ignore. But sometimes I watch it, it kind of bugs me. It's a small thing, and I can't blame Godzilla was at its peak with its budget right here, and they did the best they could, and for that I still appreciate. I still love that scene. However, I still think it should have been done with just our traditional set of Hong Kongs and miniature would have been fine. We don't always need to see the people running around in fear. But all the same though, it's still a great opening. I love that scene. As far as special effects critiquing goes, that's the only time I really would want to complain. Other than that, special effects in the movie are fantastic. All the many forms of Destroyer look freaking great. They move fantastically. And of course, cinematography, there are a lot of great shots in this movie. One of my favorite ones to watch over and over again because of that, because there are just so many great scenes. And then, of course, we move to the finale after Godzilla has finally triumphed over Destroyer, who, mind you, I said many times, he's one of the few monsters to ever be taken down by the military itself, although Godzilla did really lay into him, basically blowing off a piece of his face, basically causing Destroyer to retreat. So with that said, yeah, it's a lot of great scenes to move to one of the most strongest scenes in any Godzilla movie, Godzilla's death, which is handled in such a beautiful way by Fukube and visually by the director and cinematography. It just looks fantastic. You feel the tears building up inside you, and it just hurts to watch Godzilla literally melts away. And the tragic part about all this, even though Godzilla did get his vengeance against Destroyer at the time, his son is basically believed to be dead. And so it's really sad watching Godzilla die because he basically had lost everything. He lost himself, he lost his son, and that was the end of his legacy there. However, as we all know, years later down the road, well, not years later, what am I saying? Years down the road, Godzilla Jr. absorbs all this radiation and becomes the new Godzilla, becomes full size, and he's finally fully grown, and now he takes his father's place. So it was one of the greatest Godzilla endings, that ending shot zooming in of the silhouette of Godzilla Jr. now roaring where his father once was. It's just fantastic ending. One of the best Godzilla endings of all time. The tragedy, the ending badass shot of Junior, the music. It was just fantastically done. What can I say? There's not much more I can say about it. It's just the ending is just great. I love this movie for that. Although I will say, as a kid, I was a bit confused as to what the hell happened. I was under the impression that Godzilla went back to normal. But when you read about it, it makes a lot more sense. Godzilla Jr. basically took the role that Godzillasaurus did. It was Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. If you remember, the Godzillasaurus in that film basically went under the same, things. He went into the same scenario as Godzilla Jr. did, laying there on their deathbed. Whether they're dead or not, once the radiation hits, they absorb all the power and become what they basically a true Godzilla in a sense. Which is interesting to note because it's amazing how what a beautiful circle really the Heisei series was. That's because that's Godzilla's King Ghidorah talked about Godzilla's origins, and then Godzilla Destroyer brought back. Basically brought about how could we finally kill Godzilla? A question we wondered for many years because no one could ever do it within all the movies, monster and human alike. That is worth enemy turned out to be himself, surprisingly, and we come full circle with a Godzilla's King Ghidorah like scenario where Godzilla Jr. absorbs radiation and becomes Godzilla. So it's just beautiful they tie that all together, and it just makes for one hell of a satisfying movie. I mean, to me, this is a total. I usually give this movie a 9.5 out of 10, just because, like I said, that opening Hong Kong scene to be true perfection. I would have loved to see the people of Hong Kong running around in terror. So there's a bad shot here or there, but overall, the movie holds together spectacularly. Emotion, drama, well done special effects, excellent writing. This Godzilla movie is just one of the best ones ever made, and definitely one of my top favorites. If you haven't bought it already, buy the hell out of it. You can buy it on Blu-ray alongside Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. However, to me, the only way to truly buy it, I'm now Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla comes with Godzilla 2000. The only way to truly watch the movie is the Blu-ray or Japanese version because it comes with so many special features, including deleted scenes, which were fantastic to watch. So that's it, G fans. See you next time.